And action.
Good evening. I'm Evelyn Dowdy here with Fox 299 News. Today I'll be interviewing Mr. Romani with Seth Cousin. We are going to be talking about 9/11. Now to you, Carol.
Thank you, Evelyn. I'm Carol Ludington, and as you know, we will be talking about 9/11. On that terrible day, 4 planes were hijacked in mid-flight by Al-Qaeda and crashed into the Twin Towers, the Pentagon, and a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
9/11 affected many families. There were over 2,977 deaths overall. Out of the 4 planes that were hijacked, 2 crashed into 2 skyscrapers at the World Trade Center in New York. 1 plane crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. And the last plane, one of the most famous flights, Flight 93, crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania.
The reason the last plane landed in a field in Pennsylvania is because the 40 passengers on the plane fought the terrorists to try to stop them from reaching their goal.
We should also end a moment of silence to remember this tragic event. Now we are going to be interviewing Mr. Romani with Seth Cousin. Now to you, Seth.
Hi, I'm Seth Cousin, and we have interviewed Mr. Romani, and he answered back. The first question was, tell us a little bit about himself, and he said this. His name is Muhammad Tarek Romani, but he goes by Tarek. In his family, all of his brothers have the given name Muhammad, but they all go by their middle names. This did not used to be a problem, but after 9/11, having the first name Muhammad caused problems. He would have never dreamed he had problems on that day. In the 1980s, Russia invaded Afghanistan, the country where his parents and siblings and him were born. It became a very unsafe place to live, and his parents feared for their safety. They made the decision to leave Afghanistan in the middle of the night, taking only what they could carry on their backs, and together with several other family members, they began walking away from the country in search for a safer place to live. He said they walked for several days. At the time, we had to be sure we had a cover story, because if you were caught fleeing from your country, you could be shot because you were labeled a deserter. Anytime we came to a border, a patrol agent, his mother would tell them that they were traveling to a wedding. She must have been believable because they were able to cross the border without harm. They ended up in a refugee camp in Turkey and lived there for several months, while his father applied for different countries' embassies. They were denied by the United States but accepted by Germany, so off to Germany they went. He lived in Germany for 13 years, and so in addition to his native language of Farsi, the language that the Persian people who lived in Afghanistan spoke by, he also spoke German. He moved to the United States in 1991. His uncle was already living in Munster, Indiana, so they settled with him and other extended family members. He learned to speak English too, but he has to say that it was the hardest of the 3 languages to learn. Currently, his parents and several of his aunts and uncles and cousins live in Munster, and his sister and her family and one of his brothers live in Cherville, which is just about 5 minutes from Munster. He met his wife in college at Ball State University, and they had 2 kids, Sophie and Cole, who are now 5 and 6 years old. He said he's doing well now, and things can be very stressful because all that is going on with the world, with Muslims today. He has to work hard to educate people what his religion really teaches, which is about being peaceful. But sometimes he feels like it's an uphill battle with everything the media does portray about his Islam in a negative way. On 9/11, he was in Muncie, Indiana at Ball State University. He was finishing up his last year of college. He watched some of the news and tried to go to class, but there was so much fear in the country at that time. His best friend decided that they should go to lunch, but it was very uncomfortable because the stares they received at the restaurant. It seemed he was already starting to be judged for his brown skin. He did not know anyone involved in 9/11, and he was very fortunate that he didn't lose anyone that day. Though that on that day, the planes were hijacked, he believes that his religion was too. It was hijacked by a group of extremists who were not and will never be true followers of Islam. Life really changed for his family after 9/11. Flying on an airplane without being thoroughly searched, having baggage searched, and being separated from my wife and family on the airplane became the norm. I stopped using the name Muhammad. It immediately raised red flags. He had been called horrible names, and a few times right after 9/11, he had a couple of cars attempting to run him off the road. His best friend's father, who is also Muslim, was murdered a few years after 9/11 in the restaurant he owned. The FBI was called and told him that it was a hate crime. He was killed because he was Muslim. The case is still unsolved, and that is not something he would ever have imagined happening before 9/11. Muslims as a community weren't feared. They weren't considered to be security risks. They could shop and pray, celebrate, travel without fear. They were just like us. For as awful as people have been in the wake of 9/11, there have also been those who have been wonderful. They are advocates for him and his family and his religion. It has been comforting to see people come together to support our community, his community. I think fear is an awful thing. When fear is present, it can make even the most rational person act in a way that is abnormal. As long as the media continues to perpetuate fear and matches of potential and presidential candidates continue to berate his religion to promote fear, there will be hate. I know the people are scared, and that is what drives much of the ugliness in the world. He wishes that there was an easier way to help people separate his religion and its foundational beliefs from those who have very extreme views. He doesn't assume that every white person is a member of the KKK or every black person must be in a gang, so why does the world assume that all Muslims must be terrorists? It doesn't make any sense. He would have to say that the best thing you can do is teach others who you are and what you believe, what you love and stand for. You can do this through your actions and words. It is important that you educate others on your religion and your culture is about. Knowledge is power. Now to you, Carol.
Thanks, Seth. I feel that it is very important to honor the firemen that risk their lives to save these people. How do you feel, Evelyn and Seth?
I feel that we need to say very special thanks to the police officers who have risked their lives to save others as well.
We all need to take into consideration who this affected and how it affected them. People lost loved ones that day, and it was a sad time for all of us here in America.
Very true, Seth. Just like in the book Ask Me No Questions, people were and are considered dangerous because of the way they looked and their religion. No one should have to go through that.
In the book Ask Me No More Questions, Nadja and Asha have to suffer because they are illegal aliens who are trying to drive through Canada. Their visa was expired, so their dad, Abba, was held in detainment until they got their money. Their mom was in a shelter trying to get enough money to help their dad out.
Meanwhile, Nadir and Aisha were living with their aunt and uncle in Queens, New York. It was a very sad time for all of them because they were trying to hide and they were all miserable. This is not how those kinds of people should feel. They should feel happy and welcome. This is why it's important for us to make everyone feel welcome in our country and not just a certain race.
That's all for Fox 59 Night News, folks. See you next week.